Hey guys, hope all is well. Welcome to the kitchen. I got a ring light now, so watch out. I'm gonna be dangerous with all these educational videos and cocktails with Kurt. It's about to get serious. So, what do I want to talk to you guys today about? Jotted down some notes. We get tons of DMs all the time about how much is it going to cost to buy a $250,000 house, a $300,000 house, a $400,000 house. For some reason, even though I give people the math, they still have a hard time with it. So I actually want to just break it down for you. So I'm going to have this video live out there on our YouTube, which you should subscribe to and get notifications, because we're going to have some exclusive content on there as well. And of course on Instagram and Instagram TV. So I want to break down for you how much you should be saving for, what a monthly payment looks like, what you should expect, how much you should expect for cash to close, and what does that mean. So I'm just going to go over 3 different price points that, obviously we help people that buy $1 million homes and people that buy $150,000 homes, but our kind of bread and butter of what a lot of our clients can afford is somewhere in that $250,000 to $400,000 price point. So I'm going to do some scenarios, and I want you guys to take your notebooks out, take notes. I'm going to give you a site to go to so you can run numbers at a price point of $250,000, at $300,000, and at $400,000. Now, let's talk about terms. What does cash to close mean? Cash to close means your down payment, which you guys have probably heard that term before, and then the closing costs. And that gives a lot of people anxiety, or they just don't even figure that in. They're like, hey, I saved for my down payment. I think that should be it. And that's, all I have to save up for. But no, there's something called closing costs. So closing costs consist of your escrows, which is your property taxes. You're a homeowner now, right? So you have to pay the county. You're getting taxed on the home and the land that it sits on. In addition, you also get homeowners insurance, right? Fire, flood, if you want to add that as well. That's a separate insurance, but a basic homeowners insurance policy. And I'll kind of go over, what you should expect for both of those. So when you combine your closing costs, which are, again, attorney fees, lender fees, filing fees, like to file your paperwork with the county, and then these escrow accounts, which is your property taxes and homeowners insurance, that's what is your closing costs. Now, on average, I would say they average between 3 and 4% of your sales price. For these calculations, we're going to use the middle number, 3.5%, to kind of give you like an average. So let's go, break down, let's jump into it. So everybody right now, if you need to pause this, grab your notebook and let's go. First, we're going to start with a website that you should use to calculate kind of your estimated down payment, and it won't give you your closing costs, but your average estimated monthly payment, which is obviously at the end of the day what's the most important to people. So you should go to a site called mortgagecalculator.org, mortgagecalculator.org. And you'll be able to fill in a lot of these values minus the closing costs, but if you have a handy calculator, you can average that as well. So let's start with $250,000. Now, the average person, just from experience, ourselves included, when you cannot afford the typical 20% down, which is the amount that really gives you the biggest stake and the biggest equity in a property, most people are not going to be able to save up and afford 20% down. Usually people that can afford 20% down are people that maybe have relocated from a very high real estate market, like a New York, an LA, a Chicago, a Philly, maybe in Miami, and they've lived there for years and they've already owned a home and they have $75,000, $150,000, $500,000, cash to put down towards their next house. But for the average first-time home buyer or the person that doesn't have a lot of liquid cash, they're going to go with 3 scenarios: a 3%, a 3.5%, or a 5% down payment. So that's the numbers we're gonna go off of. So let's start at 250,000. Now what I want you to do is multiply that by 3%. That's 250,000 times 0.03. That equates to, off a $250,000 house, $7,500. Next, we're gonna look at the closing costs. Like we said, we're gonna take the average. So you're gonna take that 250,000 times 0.035, 3.5%. That equates to $8,750. So in a scenario where the seller or the builder does not give you any closing costs, you should estimate your cash to close, which is your down payment and those closing costs, of $16,250. And that might sound like a lot to a lot of people, but it's really a great number to buy a $250,000 house. Somebody is going to let you borrow $250,000 and to just complete this process to get you in a home. I think it's a pretty fair trade-off, $16,250. Now, what becomes very helpful, as you see on our page, we highlight a lot of new home communities. I travel all around Greater Atlanta to showcase those to you. And we get a lot of people in new home communities, including ourselves. So most new home builders, the combination between preferred lender credit and a builder credit towards your closing costs, on average, I would say is around $5,000. Sometimes it could go up to $6,000, $7,500. Sometimes it could be just $2,500. But on average, I just want you to use $5,000 if your goal is to build or take advantage of a standing inventory new home. So in that scenario, right, we had $16,250. What you would do is subtract $5,000 from that. So your cash to close in that scenario would be $11,250. Now that sounds a lot more reasonable, right? In addition to that, when you buy a resale or a new home, they're gonna ask you to put down earnest money. Earnest money is money that sits in an account. It's your money unless you back out of the contract for reasons like you just don't want to do that, go with the house anymore. Here, this builder has built it for you and you just end up walking away as a well-qualified buyer. You probably would get that money back if, say, like you lost your job, the financing fell through, anything like that. But for the most part, that is going to be your money. So in that scenario, say the builder asks you to put $2,000 down towards your earnest money. That $2,000 again is a credit when you go to your cash to close. So now we're at $16,250. The builder is giving you $5,000, so you're down to $11,250. You've already put the $2,000 down, so you subtract the $11,250 minus $2,000. So now you're at $9,250. Not a bad deal, right? So you're buying a $250,000 resale or new home, but in this scenario, we're looking at the typical builder paying you the $5,000, you putting down $2,000. They might ask for $2,500. They might ask for more. So for a $250,000 house, after you put your $2,500 down, you're down to $9,250 to close on that house. Now, again, from what I've talked about, this is about discipline. This is about saving. This is about reaching for a goal. So you're going to use these numbers to give yourself a goal. You should always go on the basis that you're not getting closing costs. Closing costs are always, at the end of the day, the buyer's responsibility. In a very, very hot market, especially in resales, last 5 resale houses, there have been bids on each house of 10 or more. Do you think that that seller is going to give that home buyer $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 towards their closing costs? Absolutely not. So that's why a lot of people are going the new home route, because they are going to get the help with closing costs. But just keep that in mind. In the worst case scenario, you're looking at $16,250. In the best case scenario, where they give you $5,000, you put your $2,000 earnest money, about $9,250. So in that scenario, you should have definitely saved up at least $10,000. Now, this shouldn't be the last $10,000 to your name. You could use that out of your 401k, your savings, your investment accounts, but that's that scenario. 3%, at 250 is 16,250. Let's go to the next scenario, 3.5%, which is an FHA mortgage. That amount would be between a 3.5% and a 3.5% closing cost, $17,500. Okay, then you're gonna just, again, take those numbers. Hey, I'm putting $2,000 in earnest money. I'm gonna have $5,000 from the builder towards my closing costs. So you're always gonna just subtract 7,000 from that number. 17,500, you're down to about 10,500. In scenario 3, if you want a little bit more skin in the game, you want a little bit more equity in the house, you want a little bit of a lower monthly payment, you're looking at 5% down would be 12,500, 3.5% closing costs would be 8,750. So your cash to close would be 21,250. Okay. Now, again, the minus 5,000, the minus 2,000. Now, what is your monthly mortgage payment made out of? It's made out of principal, interest, private mortgage insurance, because you're putting less than 20% down, and your escrows, which is your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Now, this is where that formula is going to help you in that mortgagecalculator.org. On average, I would say take that sales price, because that's going to be around your appraised value. And counties calculate property taxes. Each county and city calculates it by what's called a millage rate. I'm not going to get too deep into that. Just from experience, property taxes on the cheapest county is usually around 1%. On the high end, it could be 1.5, 1.6%. So on this example, we're just going to go 1.25, keep it average. So on a $250,000 house, you should expect to pay property taxes of $3,125. Homeowners insurance is definitely going to vary if you do a bundle with your car insurance, and a new home build. Sometimes they'll give you a better discount when you use one of their insurance companies. But on average at that price point, let's say $1,000. So when I put all these numbers in that mortgagecalculator.org, it came out to, at 3%, $1,467.18. So let's just say $1,467. 3.5%, $1,461.39, and at 5%, $1,444. So at $250,000, you could find a 3-bedroom, a 4-bedroom. 5-bedroom might be a little bit tough, but it could be potential. But what are you guys paying for rent? This is also, as an example, at a 3% interest rate. So again, why I'm giving a 3% interest rate in this calculation, and you're going to be able to change that in the mortgagecalculator.org, is my clients right now are getting rates under 3. If you've got a really low end, I won't say bad, but a low end credit score, maybe around 620, maybe around 600, maybe around 630, you're probably going to get on the higher end of the interest rate. So you might be paying 3.25, 3.5. But on average, I'm just using a 3% interest rate, which a lot of our clients do. Again, you should always have the goal of 680 or higher. 740 or higher is always going to get you the absolute best rate. So you'd probably fall in that under 3% category. That's what this payment looks like. $1,467, $1,461, $1,444. And you're probably like, wow. I know, I hear a lot about it. I hear from my New York people, here in Atlanta, if you've been renting in a Buckhead or Sandy Springs, you're probably paying $1,800 to $3,500 a month in rent. So you could get a 3-4 bedroom house, maybe even a 5, but mostly a 3 or 4. And again, it's not gonna probably be in those areas, but it's a way to get into real estate and eventually turn this first property into a rental property down the line. Can you afford $1,467 in a worst case scenario? $16,250 down minus any seller contributions and your earnest money. So in these scenarios, you should be shooting for worst case scenario, save up $16,000 to about $22,000. And in the best case scenario, about $10,000 to close to around $15,000, $16,000 to close. So I'm gonna go in the next video into 2 other examples, 300 and 350. So stay tuned, but follow those instructions, look back, take notes, and now you know how to calculate cash to close and a mortgage payment. Talk to you soon.